I'm a proud first-generation Taiwanese American working mom to an amazing 1.5-year-old boy. 我是王诗君，我是个不可思议的妈妈。I'm Catherine Wong Young, and I'm a miraculous mama.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Miraculous Mamas podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Joy, and we believe in empowering women through storytelling and education, and I'm so glad that you are here today. For today's podcast, we have on the budget mom. We have Kumiko Love on, and she is going to talk to us about how she, just her story, how she became the budget mom, how she got out of debt, and how she helps moms get out of debt and live the life that you love on a budget, and how to plan for your future and for things that you want to be able to do with your family. She's just so knowledgeable and so much fun to talk to. So we are super excited to have her on. Before we get into it, I told you guys that I'm going to be going over like some segments as I'm preparing for my birth and my birth plan and everything like that. I wanted to keep you guys in the conversation because there's a lot of things I'm realizing that we have not talked about on here. So I'm super excited. In the next couple of months, we're going to be talking to a prenatal chiropractor and an acupuncturist and acupressure specialist. We're going to be talking to a placenta encapsulator, some people about breastfeeding. We are talking about cloth diapering. We're talking about so many things that we haven't talked about on here. And it's like good knowledge just to have. We're talking to a pelvic floor therapist. And it's just great to learn this information because there's so much that I've learned along the way. And I know so many of you are in the same boat, and I've been doing pelvic floor therapy and going to a chiropractor since about 25 weeks of pregnancy. So I thought it'd be a lot of fun to include you guys in why that's beneficial, how it can help you, what these specialists are doing, how it could affect your pregnancy, your labor, postpartum, anything like that. And like I said, just things on the birth plan. We're going to be talking about delayed cord clamping, skin to skin, all of that good stuff. And today, before the interview gets started, I wanted to talk to you about a very sexy subject called Group B strep or streptococcus. I'm not pronouncing it right, but you guys know what I mean. Streptococcus, yeah. So everyone in pregnancy in the United States, it is standard practice for everyone to get tested. In a lot of other countries, it is not. I know in the UK, it's not, but people there are fighting for it to be because it's scary if it's something that your baby does get. So here, everyone will get tested usually between 35 and 37 weeks. And what it is, it's a bacteria that lives in the body, and it usually does not cause a serious illness. It's not an STD or an STI, and it's usually found in your vagina or your rectum. So that means that since it can colonize in the vagina, that it can pass from a pregnant woman to her fetus during labor, which is rare. It happens about to every 1 or 2 babies out of 100 when a mother does not receive antibiotics during labor. So we're just going to chat about this for a minute. So about 10 to 30% of pregnant women are colonized with strep B and will test positive, but out of the 10 to 30% of women, they either they could be positive temporarily, on and off, or persistently. So everybody has a different bacteria, and everyone can kind of, even if you test positive at your 35 week appointment doesn't mean that you're going to be positive during labor. There's people who do struggle with it persistently, and it can cause UTI infections and all other sorts of other stuff. But some people have it on and off, or it's just a temporary case that goes away. So being colonized does not mean that you're going to get an infection. A lot of people carry it and do not receive an infection ever. And so they started treating everybody who tested positive for GBS. Like in the 90s, they didn't, and the cases were a lot higher, because the problem is if your baby does get an infection, if you are GBS positive and your baby ends up getting an infection, it can lead to serious illness such as meningitis, pneumonia, or sepsis. So it is a serious thing if you really are positive and if it is passed on to your baby. So they started treating GBS positive people, pregnant women, and in the 90s, about 1.7 cases per 1,000 births had a serious illness. And once they started treating people, it went down to 0.25 per 1,000 births. So it was a significant decrease when they started treating everyone with antibiotics who tested GBS positive. Now, though, studies have shown, and I'm going to link all of this information for you, that in labor, the rapid test is much more effective. And not every place is doing that now, but that's definitely something to talk to your provider about, is that even if you test positive at your 35, 37 week, if you can do an in-labor rapid test as well. Another thing that they've shown that has happened is that in cases where you're positive and if you're positive, they're going to do IV antibiotics. And in those cases, there's been several studies, and 7 out of 8 studies have showed that IV antibiotics affect the baby's gut microbiome short term. So anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, and with some more serious cases between 6 months and a year. And it was even higher in babies who weren't breastfed. So the IV can have some negative effects. The antibiotics can have some negative effects for the baby, but it's shown to be short term. Also, if you're receiving antibiotics, you have a risk of yeast infection, you and the baby both. Your risk of yeast infection goes up, which for babies, it's called thrush because it'll usually be in their mouth, and for you, it would be on your breast, which antibiotics can do that. But you can also ask, I know being hooked up to an IV, if that's not part of your plan, but you're positive, does not sound fun. You can ask to have a HEP lock or a saline lock, and that they just administer the antibiotics every 4 hours, and then they can unhook you so you can move around. So there's some really good news, though, about the GPS. If you are positive, if you're GBS positive, probiotics have shown to decrease the GBS positive group. So there was a study in Taiwan where they took everyone who had tested positive for group B, and they had a placebo group and the regular group. And the placebo group, they gave obviously a placebo pill to, and the other group they gave antibiotics to. And the group not antibiotics, probiotics. They gave probiotics to the other group, and they saw in the group who took probiotics within 3 weeks, 43% of them tested negative. So almost 50% of the people who took probiotics within 3 weeks tested negative. And probiotics are also shown to decrease yeast infections. If you have a yeast infection, taking a good probiotic is really important. And affecting your baby's gut microbiome, probiotics are really, really good for that. So if you're taking probiotics throughout your pregnancy, your baby is getting some of that, and you're helping develop that really good gut microbiome. So then if you do have to have antibiotics, if you are GBS positive, your baby kind of has a little bit of a head start. And by you continuing to take them and breastfeeding, that will help as well. So although GBS can sound super scary, not a lot of babies get a serious illness from it, especially if treated with antibiotics. And then the probiotics are a really great option to combat the negative effects from the antibiotics. What was really cool in a study in Taiwan as well is that they took group B strep and put it in a petri dish with vaginal lactobacilli, which was probiotics. And they saw that when they combined it, that the group B strep couldn't colonize. It didn't colonize as quickly, or it didn't colonize at all. So probiotics have a really positive impact on that. And I've been taking probiotics throughout my whole pregnancy. And a little bit later, I'm also going to talk about one of my favorite products, which is from the company Global Healing, and their probiotics are super cost effective and they're absolutely amazing, and the company's awesome. And there's a great discount for you guys if you want to check it out as well. So I learned a lot about group B strep studying all of this. I honestly didn't know that much before. All I knew is if you tested positive that you got antibiotics. And it can sound really intimidating and scary, but it's definitely something to have a conversation with your provider about. What, if you do test positive, what are your options? Can you do a rapid test? If you're planning to take anything new, such as a probiotic, always check with your provider first and talk to them about any other possibilities or treatments that they could recommend or that are out there for you. I know that this conversation about group B strep has been so much fun. And like I said, very sexy. But I think it's important to have these conversations because a lot of people that I've talked to in pregnancy have just been told, oh, you're positive, you got to get on antibiotics when you're in labor. And that's it. There's like no other conversation or information in there. So I think it's good just to be informed and educated so you can go to your provider with questions and feel equipped and empowered throughout your experience. We are going to take a quick break so I can talk to you about my favorite probiotic, which I was talking about in the intro with gut health, and it is by Global Healing, which is a family-owned and operated business since 1998. All the products are vegan, GMO-free, gluten-friendly, ethically sourced, packaged with recycled glass bottles, and manufactured in one of the eco-friendliest facilities in the industry. The ingredients have been trusted for decades for purity and potency with no binders, fillers, or toxic compounds, which is so important. The probiotic that I'm currently taking is Lateral Flora, and it is amazing. It helps strengthen your gut, supports your digestive system, boosts the immune system, and I have definitely seen a difference. You guys can definitely check it out on their website. They have another probiotic option too that is amazing. It is probiotics and prebiotics. How many of you have heard of prebiotics? And that is their FloraTrex. And it also is going to support digestion, nutrient absorption, promotes a strong immune system. It also helps encourage mental wellness. It is also an awesome product. But I also want to talk to you about their Oxy Powder because we get so many toxins in our body and in our gut, and a lot of it's out of our control. Like you get toxins from the air, from harmful organisms, radiation, even from stress, but it's also in your food and beverages. And Oxy Powder helps get rid of that. A healthy body starts with your gut, and your digestive system is your lifeline to good health. Every single day, it processes nearly 3 gallons of food, liquids, and internal secretions. However, occasional constipation and other digestive ailments can strike at any time. Oxy Powder is the key to feeling lighter, having more energy, and setting a foundation for healthy living. Oxy Powder uses oxygen for safe and gentle cleansing of impurities and toxins and harmful organisms. It is the world's most advanced oxygen-based intestinal cleanser. It is all natural and uses the power of oxygen to safely and effectively melt away the compaction of your small intestine, large intestine, and colon. It is a time-release formula, and using it on a regular basis can promote intestinal harmony while creating an environment that encourages friendly probiotic growth, which we know is so important, and discourages the harmful bacteria that you don't need or want. It's gentle on your body, and unlike laxatives, which are harsh and damaging to your digestive tract, Oxy Powder is not habit-forming and won't cause any dependency. I highly encourage you guys to check out Global Healing. They have such amazing supplements on their website. We also know the importance of taking vitamin D. They have Suntrex D3, which helps boost your immunity. And all of their products are so amazing. And right now, as a new customer, you will receive 15% off your order when you use code MAMAS at checkout. Just go to globalhealing.com/mamas and enter code MAMAS at checkout for 15% off your first order. All products are backed by their year to love it guarantee. Love it, or you can send your bottle back empty or full for a 100% refund. And they always offer free shipping in the US and Canada. Now back to the show. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get Miko on. Now we're going to talk about money. Like I said, she's super awesome, and I'm really excited that she is here for this episode. So I'm going to go ahead and start the interview. Hey everyone, I have Miko Love here. You guys know her as the Budget Mom, and she is teaching people to live a life that you love on a budget that you can afford. So I think we all have some very valuable lessons to learn here today. So thank you so much, Miko, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I'd love for you to tell us, how did you become the Budget Mom?
So the Budget Mom was really born out of my frustration and hardships with financial management. It was really born from my journey on learning how to budget my money and pay off debt. But it was also a learning journey. So I actually created my first blog post for the Budget Mom just because I was going through the accredited financial counseling designation, and I was learning all this amazing stuff that I felt I needed to share with the world. It really became a mission for me to help other single moms like I was, who was struggling financially and learning how to budget and save and pay off debt. I think one of the main questions that went through my mind when I initially started the Budget Mom, and even today, is, if there is one other single mom who felt and feels like I did when I was struggling financially, if I could just help them through the Budget Mom. And that's really where the Budget Mom started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know a lot of people do feel that frustration because, the majority of people have some sort of financial struggles, and it's so hard finding a balance, especially when you add kids into the picture. Cause I know I'm about ready to have my first kid, and it's such a different mentality, thinking, oh, okay, I can pay my bills, I can take care of myself. But then there's this baby coming into the world, and I'm like, oh snap, I gotta take care of another human being and make sure that we have some sort of financial preparedness for that situation, you know?
Yeah, it's funny because something happens to us when we become moms. We actually do a shift. We go from being selfish spenders to selfless spenders. So in my circumstances, before I had my son, I spent money on myself. I spent money on myself to make myself happy. I spent money on myself for my needs. And then all of a sudden, at least for me, when I had my son, they become literally your entire world. It's like this overwhelming first experience of responsibility. It's like that realization that there's itty bitty human depends on you entirely and completely. And that can be a really overwhelming and a really scary feeling. But for me, it really was a motivational type factor in my life. And so, yeah, we really do that shift where because someone else's needs and wants are more important than our own, our spending shifts with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense. I would love to know, so a lot of people come to you for advice, mostly moms. What is the biggest question that you get?
How do I start?
Okay.
I think that's the biggest question that I get, because what happens is when you go online, and this is exactly what I experienced, and you try to find resources on how to be better with your money, you are automatically flooded with all different types, not just information, but all different types of advice, all different types of information. You find yourself getting pulled in 10,000 different directions. And it's like, okay, well, not only is learning all about your finances and what you have going on financially in your life is overwhelming, but what to do with that information is overwhelming. So the number one question I get is, Miko, I don't even know where to start. And I think that's a really great question that we get. And I'm actually really glad that's our number one question, because it's the starting point. It's that first step you make to managing your finances that's really, really critical.
Mm-hmm. Like, just even, would you say like the desire to want to take that step?
Well, I think the realization that a self-realization that, okay, I know there needs to be a change here. That's a really great step. But also when you're in that moment, and I know that they're coming to me for a reason, they're coming to me because they know there needs to be change. But it also brings up my number one tip in financial advice, and that's discovering your why and purpose on this journey. It's realizing just like, okay, I'm here. I'm searching out this information. I'm reaching out to someone because I need help. But the deeper question becomes, well, why am I seeking this information? There's a deeper meaning behind that. It's not just, I want to get better with my finances. There's a reason you want to get better with your finances. And I really challenge my readers to question that and embrace that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're going to take a quick break to talk about the stresses of becoming a new parent. There's so much information, and you don't know what to do. You don't know how your baby's going to react or sleep or be, or if breastfeeding is going to be easy or hard, or even what your labor and delivery is going to be. But you can have peace of mind with the Lumi by Pampers baby monitoring system. Like I said, you can stress about, are they comfortable? Are they sleeping enough? And this monitoring system is amazing. It combines an HD video monitor with a sleep sensor that automatically tracks the baby's sleep 24/7. From the app, you can see the baby really clearly, even if you're trying to zoom in at night. And you can also see their naps and sleep visualized in a way that's easy to see how their routine is forming, and all of that great information. The personalized insights help you create a more consistent sleep schedule, and more sleep for baby means more sleep for you and me, and it's one less thing to stress about. No wonder it is award-winning. You can try it Lumi by Pampers for 20% off by going to lumibypampers.com. That's LUMI by Pampers.com, and use code Miraculous20. That's lumibypampers.com and 20% off with code Miraculous20. Now back to the episode. So I think it's hard because if you really want to challenge your finances and get down to it, and I think asking, okay, what is your purpose and why is such a great question, because without that, it'd be so easy to get off course. But with it, there comes some accountability with it.
Oh, exactly. And it's your motivation. It's your drive. It's your purpose. It's what lifts you up when you want to give up. It's the thing in the back of your mind when you're not making the progress that you want to, that says, you know what? It's okay. tomorrow's a new day and I'm going to keep pushing. It's where giving up is no longer an option for you. But it also does something else that's really significant. It ties our emotions and what we're feeling into our financial journey. And I'm a little bit different in the finance expert world that says, leave emotions out of it. Emotions should not be tied to your finances because it leads to some bigger problems. I'm the opposite. I believe that emotion should be truly and fully embraced on this journey. And there's a couple of different factors into that. But one of them is emotion really does, I think, drive so much of our spending decisions and the way that we manage our money. And it's not until we can truly embrace, understand, and internalize our emotions that we can move forward with our financial decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I remember I'm a certified life coach, and like part of that, you do talk about like finances, and so many people have so many emotional blocks when it comes to money. And a lot of it, if you keep digging, comes down to their worth and their value and what they believe about themselves and what they believe about their lives, and kind of like stripping away old lies that you've been telling yourself. So like what you were just describing brought that up for me. And so I feel like that does make perfect sense to have your emotions tied into it, because everyone has some sort of emotion when it comes to money.
Right.
So it's definitely, yeah, that's so crazy. So you talk a lot about like financial freedom. What is that?
So financial freedom, it's funny because it's kind of this blanket term in the financial world, but really it's very, very personal. What financial freedom means to everybody is different. It has a lot to do with your financial values. It's part of that question of what does money mean to me and why is it important to me? That's going to lay, and answering that question honestly is going to lay the foundation of your financial values. And eventually those financial values are going to tell you what financial freedom looks like in your life. So financial freedom for me, and the reason and my why on my journey, to give an example, is wanting to seize opportunities with my son without relying on debt. When I envision my life and I think about my future, that is what financial freedom to me. It's the freedom of having choices, options. But I'm sure that if you were to ask everyone else what financial freedom means to them, they're all going to give you different answers. And that really does come back to our personal financial values.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you talk about personal financial values, do you like break them down into categories, or I guess how do you find what someone's financial values are?
Well, financial values is tied to many different things. It's how we're brought up. It's how the things that we learn about money, how we perceive money and the value and worth of things. For me, my financial values can really be described in 3 or 4 words. So it's security, it's peace of mind, and it's freedom. And I really think that when people are thinking about their financial values and really asking themselves that question of what does money mean to me and why is it important, I always challenge my readers to sit down with a piece of paper and start jotting down words that come to mind when they think about financial values or what money means to them. And all of a sudden, you'll start to see people come up with a whole bunch of terms. And then from there, it's really diving into what each one of those words means to you. So I don't think it's necessarily categorizing. It might just be a word that represents your financial value that then gets broken down into many different things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to do that later. I just wrote down, I'm like, what does money mean to me? Now I'm super curious to dig down to it.
Yeah. It's funny because when we start these financial journeys or a debt payoff journey or a savings journey, a lot of the time we're consumed with the numbers. Mm-hmm. We're thinking about, okay, how much debt can I pay off this month? Right? You're thinking about numbers when really the purpose of our journeys isn't about how much debt you can pay off in the short amount of time or how much money you can save. It really comes down to a self-discovery journey. And I'll be the first to admit, I learned more about myself on my financial journey than I did in any other time in my life. It's because you are forced to ask yourself those hard questions. You have to learn and understand and love yourself for there to be not just change, but lasting change that follows you into the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes total sense. All right, we're going to take a quick break so I can tell you about my new favorite skincare brand, which if you're a part of the Miraculous Mamas group, I posted about this like a month or two ago, and that is Tula Skincare. Tula is a doctor-founded, clean and effective skincare and wellness brand built on the power of probiotics. There's that word that we love again, and superfoods. 100% of the products are formulated with probiotics and superfoods to feed your skin all the good stuff that it needs. And Tula focuses on being healthy, not perfect, and empowering our community to feel confident in the skin that you're in. Their products are cruelty-free and never tested on animals. So I have been using the Tula Skincare Rose Glow and Get It Cooling and Brightening Eye Balm every single morning, and you can feel the cooling effects. So in the morning, I start my day by putting on the Protect and Glow, which I'm obsessed with. It's the daily skin sunscreen gel. It has an SPF 30 in it. And one thing that I learned, did you know that you need to protect your skin inside too against blue light as well? I did not know that, but you do. So I put this on every single morning, and I kid you not, a few weeks ago when I first started using it, I came out with this on, and Vito said, "You are glowing. You look like you're getting younger." And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. But when I put this on in the morning, I do actually feel a glow in my skin. It evens my skin tone out. And then I always put on my eye stick, my Rose Glow and Get It. And you can feel the cooling effects. And I have absolutely loved using my Tula products over the last few weeks. And I know I just mentioned 2 of them today, but I will tell you more about them in the coming weeks and why I love this brand and all of their products so much. And right now you can get 15% off if you go to Tula, Tula.com and use code MAMAS. That's Tula.com, 15% off and use code MAMAS. And I would love to hear what your favorite product is and why. Now let's get back to the show. Like I said, I feel like so many people have there is a lot of emotion around money. So digging into that and finding your values, I feel like you'd have to learn to love yourself and you would just learn more about yourself, because whether you like it or not, money is a huge part of our lives. It's how we live. We can't live in this country without it. So there's a need for it, but then it's so many people are bound by it and in financial debt. So I'm super curious to dig into what money does mean to me and open that portal.
Yeah. Well, not only is, money, I think money is so much for so many people, but it really comes down to, I know I discovered a new level of contentment and gratitude in my life when I started really digging into those hard questions. It took me almost 3 years to say out loud, I'm spending my money carelessly and in the wrong way because I don't love myself. I don't like the way that I look, and I'm not comfortable in my own skin. And saying that out loud now may seem like a really easy thing to do, but it was extremely hard for me to admit that to myself. No one wants to come out and say, I don't love myself. I don't like the way I look. I don't like these certain things about myself. And for me, my spending, I was overcompensating for those negative internal feelings. I was out blowing my money on clothes and tanning salons and getting my nails done and getting my hair done to look a certain way. When still on the inside, I was still screaming. I was still broken. And that's what I'm saying. To make lasting change, you have to fix what's broken on the inside as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you said that, because I feel like again, like money's just tied to so much and you don't think about it. Right? You don't think that you need money to fill those things, but like subconsciously you do, because that's where you're putting it into.
Right.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff. So I was reading, back in the day, I worked in the service industry for a really long time. So I'd make cash tips, and I'd always divide my cash into envelopes and would budget my money that way. But I definitely miss making those cash tips. I don't make them anymore. So I use a credit card. But my husband and I have talked a lot about doing the cash again, because we're trying to just budget in certain areas of our life. But my hesitancy is like, I think I said that word wrong. Where I'm hesitant is like, I like the credit card points because we get rewards with them. But I know that we would save money if we did the cash envelopes. So what would you say to someone like me?
So that's the question of trade-offs. So of course, now I'm also very different. I don't think credit cards are bad. I think that if you can use them responsibly and pay them off every month and get those rewards points, go at it. But you better make sure, know yourself and be honest with yourself that you're actually going to pay them off. That said, there's trade-offs. You know you're going to save more money if you use cash. But the trade-off is you're going to have to get rid of the rewards points that you're currently getting by using your credit card. So it's a matter of looking at what's going to save you more. Are you going to save more by getting the rewards points, or are you going to save more by not spending on your credit card and only going back to being an all-cash spender? And you have to be okay with those trade-offs. And I think, too, it comes down to habit. A lot of the time I see people who do use their credit cards responsibly, and all of a sudden they make this huge financial shift where they go from swiping a card, which is a habit. It's a daily habit that's not recognized, but it is a habit. And then they go to being an all-cash spender. Breaking that chain and breaking that habit and making that huge financial shift in your finances, too, might be hard to some. So you have to think about, okay, is the trade-off worth me breaking this habit and going into and developing a new one, essentially?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. I'd have to look into it, but I feel like that's good advice to see.
I would definitely start there. Yeah, I would see how many rewards points, what exactly are you getting by using your credit card every month like you are now?
Right.
Versus maybe you do a trial run. Maybe you go back to an all-cash spender for a couple months. What was your progress? And then compare the two. It has to be something that's visible and realistic in our lives. I think that once you really pinpoint those rewards and those benefits versus the trade-off, the answer is going to be really clear.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me to my next question, because my husband says I spend too much on groceries, but which is a really common, everybody I talk to is like, oh, that's a conversation in my house every single week is you spend too much on groceries. And I really value health and eating healthy food. And it's really important to me. And so we've talked about like, maybe I just go back to the cash envelopes for groceries and budget it that way, because that's where our budget is like a little out of control. But like, how do you, like, I know that groceries is such a big thing for so many people. So how do you like, I guess, have that conversation with people when they're asking you about their grocery budget?
The funny thing about the grocery budget, I call it the silent killer of finances, because it is number one problem area for a lot of different families and a lot of different individuals. The reason is because we view food as a necessity.
Right.
It's a necessity for us to live. With that, though, it quickly turns into wants. I don't know if you've ever been at the store and you're like, you catch yourself throwing random stuff into your cart. All of a sudden, it shifts from being a necessity into a want. And for you going back to your cash envelope and only doing one category in your budget, I think that's fantastic. That's a great starting point. It's a great way for you to test the waters. Mm-hmm. What happened to your food budget when you went back to cash? Was there a noticeable change? Did you ask yourself harder questions, or did you become aware of maybe some spending triggers that you weren't aware of when you were using your credit card? I also think that when you're health conscious, I think that being able to decrease other areas of your life to incorporate that being a passion of yours, but there has to be some type of compensating in your budget, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's and not only that, there has to be, even if you are health conscious, there has to be a limit to what you're allowed to spend or what you can realistically spend in your budget every single month. I would start, if you were coming to me and asked me that question, I would start using a cash envelope. Create a budget with what you're realistically spending today. Mm-hmm. And then next month, if you stick to that budget, challenge yourself to decrease that budget by $50. Do it in really small increments. Because the last thing that I want people to do is create these, big, huge, ginormous goals and then not meet them because the goal that they set up and to begin with wasn't realistic. And that's a lot of the time why financial goals can be really frustrating and can feel really defeating, is because we're setting ourselves up to fail from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. So that's, I talk about small increment changes to our food budget. I always recommend a cash envelope for your food budget as well as meal planning. Yeah. I know for a lot of my health conscious readers, meal prepping and meal planning where they can buy things in bulk really helps them a lot with their food limit and their food budget that they are spending. But there's many, many different things, from different options for buying organic, from generic to big box brands. There are a lot of things that even being health conscious can still save you money.
Yeah, for sure. I know it's definitely one of those things that, again, from making good money and being single, like I used to only shop at like Whole Foods, and now like I switched job industries and don't make as much money as I used to. And feeding a grown man is like feeding 4 teenagers. I don't know what this guy, he eats so much. So my grocery budget, and I still feel like I'm trying to find that balance, because there's the way I'm used to eating. And obviously, like, I want to take care of my family and I want him to be healthy. So right. I want to buy healthy things. And just like even learning what for me is important to buy organic and what I don't have to, and what, right. still just kind of, and even like some stores, like I used to only go to certain stores. And I just realized like, it was actually during this, whole pandemic thing, I was ordering groceries online at a grocery store, and I filled out the cart, and then they said that it wouldn't be delivered for like 2 weeks. And so I filled out the exact same items in another cart at another grocery store, and it was $20 cheaper. And I always thought that this other grocery store was more expensive than the other one for some reason.
Right.
And I was like, holy crap. So I ended up doing that with like 3 or 4 different stores just to compare. And I'm like, these prices vary so much, but it's a lot of work to put in to like drive to this store for that thing and that store for the other thing, you know?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And that's a really great first step though, is the price comparing, and kind of breaking our mindset of breaking that shell of, oh, I thought this store was cheaper, but it's actually not. And that's why, and I always tell my readers to do price comparisons before shopping. And then at that time, they can really make the decision is my time more valuable than the money I'm actually going to save? Because like you said, running around to 8 different stores and spending all afternoon trying to pick up all the groceries that you need for one grocery haul, that can be really time consuming as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know. That's it. I have to go back to cash for groceries. We are going to take a quick break to talk about how it has been a year, y'all. It has been such a crazy year. And I'm so glad that it's summer and it's a little bit warmer outside and the weather's a little better. But I feel like so many people have gone through so much this year, and there is a resource that can help if you want to talk to anybody. It is safe and private in an online environment. It's so convenient. You can start communicating with someone in under 24 hours, and that is BetterHelp. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. I got matched with Eric a little over a month ago, and it is so easy to communicate. You can send a message to your counselor anytime, and they are there to help you with whatever you're dealing with, whether it's depression or stress, anxiety, relationships, sleeping, trauma, grief, family conflicts, anger, or even just trying to sort out what is happening in the world. Sometimes it's nice just to have a conversation with an outside source. I think change is a big one. Having big changes in your life, like having a baby, bringing a new family member into your routine and adjusting to that in your relationships. And BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, and they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is also available. It's convenient, professional, affordable, and you can check out testimonials posted daily on their site. And we have a great offer for you guys. If you want to start living a happier life today, as a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/mamas. Join over 800,000 people taking charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/mamas. Now back to the episode. So another thing that I guess I've heard a lot of people I talk about is like kind of spending what you can versus what you think you're supposed to. So like, let's say I have a 5-year-old child and my friend has a 5-year-old child. Well, he got my kid a $50 gift for his birthday. And so I feel like I have to get him a $50 gift for his birthday, but if I can't get, like that's not in my budget. I don't spend $50 on a 5-year-old's birthday. But then you feel bad, because this kid got, like they always spend that on your kid or whatever. So how do you, I guess, mentally tell yourself that it's okay?
It's going to take time, especially as moms, especially when it comes to our children. But learning to say no, or learning to say, you know what, I'm on a different part of my journey maybe than he is. But let's keep in mind here, we don't know if your friend and how they paid for that item. We don't know if he's out racking up his credit card to get that $50 gift, or whether he did it and paid cash. We don't know what happens behind closed doors, which is why it's so important that we don't compare. It's a matter of being proud of what you're doing with your finances, to be able to tell yourself, you know what? I know I can't afford this, and I refuse to go into debt or put my finances in jeopardy to do that. You have to be confident and have that confidence in what the progress you're making with your finances, and be really proud of that. And I think once you get to that point and you embrace that, it makes it a lot easier. Now, I struggled with this as a mom, and I did the thing not with presents, but I saw other moms providing their children certain things, right? Either expensive vacations or really nice clothes, or, you know, really like top brand name clothes, or whatever it may be. I found myself, well, I'm not doing that. I can't do that. But it was that realization, well, that doesn't make me any less of a mom.
Yeah.
Right. It just means I'm on a different step in my journey. And I have to embrace the work I have to do to get to where I want to go, to provide the life I want with my child. And I think you really have to get to that state.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's so hard though, because like, I guess I was introduced more to it. My husband comes from like a big Italian family, and that's like a big thing to them. Like if somebody gives you like a birthday card for your kid with this much in it, you give that exact same amount back. And I always have those conversations with him, because we're having a kid and we don't make tons of money, and we're remodeling our house right now. And I'm like, we can't afford to give every single cousin in your family this much money. Like that's ridiculous. Like, to me, it's ridiculous, but to him, it's what you have to do. And it's like, it's not breaking the bank, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't get it.
Right. Well, and I think too, especially when that's a really interesting dynamic, because, you know, you are thinking and feeling this way while your husband, it's not only what he feels, but it's what he knows.
Right.
It's what they've always done in his family. And I think at that time, it's a great opportunity to start the conversation of, hey, hon, you know, this is how I'm feeling about it. I understand it's what you have always done, but these are my feelings. Can we find some type of middle ground? Is there some type of middle ground where we can find where you're happy and I'm happy? But it really comes down to, what can you realistically afford?
Yeah.
And what are you giving up in the future to spend that money now? And those questions have to be answered during that conversation. Look, if we spend, and what I would do is I would literally list out every single birthday every single birthday I had to celebrate, and the money that, you know, an estimate of what I would have to give. And I would say, look, if we're spending this every year in birthday money, this is what we're giving up to do that. Are we okay with that?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And kind of like leading, I guess, into the next thing then, like saving up for large purchases. So, right at the end of the year, that could be like, for me, I like experiences. So my husband's like, do you want a push present? I'm like, do something nice for me. Like, you know, I would rather for my birthday have him take me out for a nice dinner than buy me anything, or just plan something thoughtful. It doesn't even have to like cost money, but you do realize like spending these like little things along the way add up. So how, I guess, do you, if it's like, okay, we are barely getting by, or we're getting by, like we live comfortably, but how do we save up for the large purchases like vacations or Christmas or whatever the family considers like a big event that they're going to put money. Like for me, I guess a baby shower is coming up. Right. And, so like, how do you save toward those things especially when you're trying to budget everything else in your life?
So one of the biggest aha moments for me on my financial journey was incorporating sinking funds into my budget. Now, sinking funds are financial goals that we want to obtain in the future that are really hard to pay for the entire, whatever it may be, up front with one paycheck. So what we do is we set aside a little bit every single month towards that goal or that event or that holiday. Christmas is a perfect example. Christmas is that time of year where people are using and going into debt like no other time in the year. It's insane. But what they don't realize that if they would have started saving for Christmas in January, a little bit every month, that would have helped them tremendously by the time Christmas actually rolled around and they wanted to start buying gifts. Christmas has been a sinking fund for me since I started my financial journey and learned about sinking funds. And I'll tell you what, it was a life changer. It was huge for me because that stress, anxiety, and worry that we feel, that those emotions take away so much of what the holiday or event is all about, right? Like Christmas, it's such a joyous time of the year where we're supposed to be celebrating and being with our friends and our family and doing all of the Christmas traditions and everything that Christmas encompasses. But what happens a lot of the time is that's shadowed by our feelings of guilt, our feelings of stress, thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay off everything that I just bought? Mm-hmm. With sinking funds, it's peace of mind and truly being able to embrace those things in our lives without having to worry about money. So I always say for things like that, create a sinking fund. Come up with the goal amount that you want to save for, divide it by the number of months you want to save, set that aside a little bit every month. Look at your budget. Can you realistically do that? Or do you have to kind of decrease that goal a little bit? But either way, you're taking financial steps to be prepared for the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. Whenever we have extra money, though, I'm always like, put it toward a vacation. And my husband's like, invest it. So, which I'm really, really glad. So he's much more of I've always been decent with my money. But I've been really big on I'm not a fan of debt and living debt free and stuff like that. But especially being single throughout my 20s, whenever I had money, I'm like, I'm going to go travel. I'm going to go do whatever I want. Right. And my husband's very financially planned for the future. He adjusts our budget so that we invest a lot monthly so that basically there's nothing left. Right. Which I'm thankful for because I'm like, cool, we'll be able to retire. But then I'm also like, we could be dead. Why don't we go on vacation? So it's I'm thankful for his planning, but I'm like, let's take a trip.
Sorry. Toby. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Toby. Oh, okay. Warehouse dog. Okay. I hope you can edit that out.
I absolutely can. Yeah. But yeah, I'm like, let's take a trip, so how do you, I guess, find those balances if it's, in your family? Because I think for me, I guess, I think it is important to invest and have something in your future, but it's also, like I said, I really value experiences. So it's important for me to experience life together. That's I don't know what I love is experiencing life with people and doing things and experiencing new things. So how do you balance that?
There has to definitely be balance. There has to be balance between freedom in your life and the ability to still do the things that bring you happiness. Because if we were always just about save, debt, build wealth, what I have found and what happened to me on my journey, especially when I was paying off debt, is we forget all the things that truly bring us joy and happiness in our lives. And then all of a sudden we forget, why are we even on this journey in the first place? Mm-hmm. So there has to be balance. It's great that your husband wants to invest and really build this generational wealth. But at the same time, it's great because you are saying, you know what? Life can be gone by tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure that we take the opportunity to fully enjoy those moments and opportunities in our lives. I think that's the conversation that needs to be between you and your husband of, where is that balance for us? Okay, can we maybe invest, 60% where the other percent is invested in, our lives and the things that we enjoy doing and really experiencing the short life we have now. But there definitely has to be some type of balance between that and our financial journeys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So another thing that we've, I guess, had a lot of conversations with, and I've heard from like moms in our Facebook too, is like how to save money when you're having a baby, because everyone says they cost a lot more than you think that they do. And like budgeting for what you really need, because I've already noticed that, because we got a lot of hand-me-downs, which I'm so grateful for. His brother and sister both live here, and they saved some stuff for us, so we were able to get a lot of stuff from them, which is awesome. I'm a huge fan of hand-me-downs. But I'm already noticing it's so much stuff. I'm like, this baby isn't even born yet, and we have so much stuff. Like how, and it's not even everything that we quote unquote need yet. So it's like, how do you figure out even what you really need and budget for that, and try to save money having a baby?
So what I did when I was in the same boat, I have only one son, so he was my first child. I had no idea what I was doing, to be honest. Yeah. I had no idea. And it was at the same time that I was still learning how to budget my money. What I did is I sat down and wrote a list. Look, now we're not even talking about wants. I'm talking about these. I know I need these things. Okay. I'm going to need formula. I'm going to need diapers. I'm going to need, this, and this, and this. And those needs too are very different based on the individual you're talking to. Mm-hmm. Because some people say, I need cloth diapers, where some people say, no, I just need some Pampers. Mm-hmm. So I think too that it comes down to it comes down, yes, to want, because there's different things and different directions you can go with the things that you need. But ultimately, it's a matter of just sitting down, listing out. And you know what I did? I actually went onto stores' websites, and I'm like, okay, a box of diapers cost me this. And I'm researching and I'm reading that I'm probably going to need 2 boxes a month for this, especially when my son was a newborn. Mm-hmm. I would factor that in. And the great thing is people get so scared away from doing their budget because they don't know. They're like, I don't know what this is going to be. This is just what I'm estimating. So what's the point of even doing it? But the great thing is having that starting point in the beginning. Look, you can always tweak and change your budget as you go along. The more that you learn about what having a baby entails. But I think it's really that starting point of just doing the research, sitting down and talking with your spouse or your partner, or figuring out what exactly is it that I need and go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess, even factoring in those monthly costs that you don't even really think about.
Right. And it's not only is it the monthly things, but you have to start thinking, okay, about medical insurance. Mm-hmm. Right. There's a new baby on board, and we're going to have to get medical insurance, and we're going to have to get dental for them. And we're going to have, on top of clothes, and for the first couple of years, it's a different experience. But as your child gets older, then it's sports activities and it's extracurricular school activities. And then it's a band, my son does the ukulele. Oh. for school. And I would have never thought there would ever be school expenses with that, but there is. And, then he does soccer and all these things. It's okay to be a starting place that it may not be 100% accurate, but at least it's a starting place for you to actually tweak and perfect. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you right now, your budget is going to change. It will not be the same. Food costs are going to be more. Health costs are going to be more. There's going to be certain things in your budget. And so you'll be able to learn that. But it's important to get that down on paper so you can really show and see the evolution over time on how your budget is progressing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even really think about planning the baby budget before the baby gets here. I'm like, well, we'll have the baby and just kind of see how much it costs, Yeah,
I would definitely start with an estimate too, especially if you're like me and you're a working mom, then there's daycare costs involved as well. And that was my biggest struggle. It's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to work in this huge expense that's literally half of my rent payment into this budget? And I had to cut in other areas. So it's really important that we have a foundation that we can work with now, because that's what we're going to need to change and tweak as we go.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I would love for you to just touch on the stuff that you offer to your followers. Like, how are you helping moms out right now?
So we focus a lot on free content. I started the Budget Mom to really connect with other single moms. And I understand that, and I know that not being able to afford the financial resources that can truly change your life is a big thing. Mm-hmm. And it can make, this journey a lot harder. So we focus a lot on free content, and you can find an entire free resource library on thebudgetmom.com. It's just filled with a ton of printables and tools and resources to help you get started. Or you can follow our detailed videos on YouTube. And I do daily stories and updates. I share my real numbers with my readers every day over on Instagram.
Awesome. And where can people find you on Instagram?
It's just The Budget Mom. I'm The Budget Mom across all social media channels.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. I know I was taking notes while you were talking of all the conversations I need to have with my husband and all the things I need to do. I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to do this. But yeah, I mean, I know that time is very valuable, and I'm just so grateful for you coming on and sharing all of this information. I think, working toward being debt-free is such a freedom that comes with that for families and for their future. So, I love having these conversations and being able to talk with people who are actually doing it.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. I love the conversation with her. I definitely need to move to cash envelopes for groceries. Try to get that locked down. Food is expensive though. It's definitely, if you want to try to eat healthy, I feel like it doesn't make sense. It's like the healthier you want to eat, the more expensive it is. It's all backwards, but I need to be on a budget for sure. And I want to get that down in the next couple months before I pop this baby out. If you guys are listening and you are not subscribed, make sure that you subscribe and leave us a review and tell us why you are loving the podcast. Share this with somebody who you know would love it or wants to be part of our community. Join us in our Facebook community at Miraculous Mamas on Facebook. Our Instagram and Twitter are also Miraculous Mamas. I always post stuff up on there about the guests and the Miraculous Mamas blog as well, where I share my week-to-week pregnancy journey, all sorts of other mama blogs, and there's information about the podcast on there as well. I love you guys so much, and I am excited to continue on this journey with you. I'm having so much fun learning lately and diving into different topics and talking to different moms and education and all of it. It's so much fun. And next week we are going to be talking to a mom about traveling. I know that this year's summer plans have probably had a damper on them for most people, but we are going to talk to Monet, who has taken her kids around the world, and yet they're still in school full time. They work jobs, and she's going to tell us how they do it, because that's definitely something that I am interested in. I love to travel, and I really hope to be able to take my kids with me someday and not have to. I know there's some things you have to give up, absolutely, but I'd love to still be able to explore the world and do all of that. So I will hear from you guys next week. I love you. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you next week.